There we go. Hi, my name is Chapman Cooper. I am one of the assistant coordinators in New Student and Family Programs office. And we're just about to get started. But first I'm going to go over some ground rules and I'm going to share the screen. So there we have the screen. Here we go. Okay, so just some ground rules. Y'all will not have access to any of the camera or microphone functions during this webinar, but you can answer the question or ask questions in the Q&A feature of the chat. And you can also communicate with the moderators through the chat function as well. The questions will come up as a question feed for that one. And then also, this way it's going to be recorded on Facebook, so you can go look at it later on if you missed some information or want to go back. But first, we're going to go over introductions, and we have our first two introductions of Mike and Meredith. So we can start off with Meredith.
Howdy, my name is Meredith Melner. I am the director for the first year experience within the Office for Student Success. I've been in this role for about 4 years. Prior to joining the Office for Student Success team when it was being created in 2018, I was part of the New Student Family Programs team. So I had worked there since 2005 and was able to lead New Student Family Programs through New Student Conferences, Howdy Week, Parent and Family Programs. So I've been working with new students and their families for about 17 years total, and I'm excited to get to spend some time with you all today.
And Mike.
Hi, howdy everybody. My name is Mike Duracek. I am one of 6 full-time professional academic coaches here at the Academic Success Center. I've been doing this for just under 6 years. Right now, working with students both on academic probation and students who aren't. And a little bit of background on other experience. I 2 years ago sent a child off to college. So kind of understand some of those feelings that you're going through, and then got another one who's a senior in high school that's going through the whole college application thing. And so can kind of understand things from both the student side and from kind of the parent side as well. So hopefully we'll be able to answer some of your questions today and make you feel better about things that are going on here.
Great. So if y'all want to head over to that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, you can start asking questions in that response box. But I want to go ahead and get started. Oh, Trevor has made it. So I'll introduce Trevor in a minute. Trevor, you can go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trevor Bird. I apologize for technical difficulties. I am actually at a corporate I Care in Action Day at the Houston Food Bank. So we're having a little technical difficulties, but glad to be here. I am a class of 95 community health graduate. Also the parent of a sophomore Mays business student and a hopefully class of 2027 Mays student as well. We're still waiting. And in my second year as a parent and family advisory council member, and thrilled to be here. So thank you.
Yes. So Trevor's going to add in our parent perspective a little bit too as well. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So I see that Mike is going to answer the first question we have, which is, how can my Aggie work with academic coaches?
Yeah, so great question. So academic coaches, basically what we do is we work with anything that's not course content. So time management, test prep, study strategies, reading strategies are some of the common things. If they need help with a specific course, we'll look and try to see what resources are out there and get them to the right resource for that. So the easiest way to do that is to schedule an appointment with us, because we work off of appointments. And you can do that, or your student can do that at our website. And I'm going to say this website a lot. So it's the Academic Success Center website. It's real easy. It's asc.tmu.edu. So if you go there, there's a academic coaching link, there's an appointment link, lots of other resources. But your student can click on that to schedule an appointment with us. Like I said, there are 6 of us full-time. We are very busy right now at this time of the semester. So our first available appointments are generally about 2 to 3 weeks out right now. We do have some walk-in hours during the week that are listed on our website as well, where if they got a quick question, they can just kind of come in and do the walk-in hours.
Great. Okay, the next question we have, and I put that link in the chat of the link that Mike was talking about. The next question is, can one of y'all talk about the math lab specifically for a engineering student, and what that resource can help with?
Yeah, I can talk. Probably thinking about the Math Learning Center, which opened a couple of years ago now. Really, really good resource. Lots of things that are available. The student can go check. Their website is MLC for Math Learning Center. So MLC at TM or mlc.tmu.edu. And then they can go click on the courses button and look at what their class is, and it'll show everything that's available for them. So some of the things they do, they'll do tutoring, either some kind of group drop-in tutoring. There's some classes where they'll actually schedule one-on-one tutoring with students. They do review sessions, kind of week in review sessions where a faculty member actually comes in and goes over the material for the week, provides lots of good input, and then they post those solutions on the website as well. And then, so they got tutoring, they got week in review, and then they've got help sessions as well, are kind of the big ones. There's also a virtual Math Learning Center that's got videos on different subjects. So if a student has a question about something, they can go there. So it's available anytime that they've got internet access. So really good website. Math Learning Center, really good for helping out with math. They do some statistics, and they also have some Python tutorials and videos for coding things.
Great. The next question I'm going to ask is, my student is struggling with large classroom settings. How would you suggest for them to overcome that?
Okay, I can take that one too. Yeah, large classrooms can be difficult. The best thing is to try to find ways to eliminate as many distractions in that classroom as possible. Generally sitting up front, we kind of talk about the T zone, the first few rows, or if there's an aisle down the middle, kind of in the center, because it's going to limit those visual distractions between the student and the instructor. You get up closer, you're able to hear better, you're able to see things that they write on the board better, more likely to stay focused and pay attention than if you're, hiding up in the back corner of the room where the professor can't make eye contact with you. And then the other thing is prepare for class beforehand. If you can review the material, if they can do the reading that's assigned in the textbook for that class, it lets them work with the material on their own terms the first time. And then the class, instead of going in looking for new information, is a reinforcement of that, or helping to fill in those gaps or explain things that they didn't understand. And by being familiar with the information before, they're more likely to pay attention. Your brain is actually going to be searching for that material rather than kind of sitting back and being more easily distracted.
I would add to that, encourage your student to build relationships with those in the class. It's going to shrink the psychological size of the classroom, starting first and foremost with the instructor. So visiting their instructor during office hours will allow them to begin to establish a relationship and develop some rapport with that instructor. They'll naturally be able to connect to them better in class, and just kind of make it feel smaller. Similarly, try to make friends, introduce yourself to the people sitting around you. And that can really begin to create more of a small class group, even in a very large lecture hall.
And as a parent, I would echo all of that. Our son came from a fairly small, not super small, but a fairly small high school that had smaller classes, 25 to 30 max. And so the large classes didn't really distract him. I mean, I think he kind of thrived off of it after having such small classes, but he has done exactly that. I mean, he does sit closer up to the front because I think it allows him to stay more connected while he's in class, and has made lots of friends around him to ensure that they've got a good study group. So if one person catches it or the other person didn't, or somebody needs to be out for something, they know that they've got that cohort of students that they're able to rely on and depend upon for kind of test prep when it's that time.
Great, thank you all. Okay, the next question is, this parent has seen that students have hours that they transferred in from like advanced placement or dual enrollment, and it can impact how they can change their major later on. Can someone expand more on this topic?
I can take a stab at it. So different departments have different policies and requirements for major changes. So this could be the amount of hours, GPA requirements, course requirements that are needed before a student can successfully apply to that college for a change of major. So they're all a little bit different depending on the department. I'll drop a link in the chat that you can access to see what the different requirements may be per college, but that may be where some of those differences are coming from. If you already have some college credit, then you may be able to apply for a change of major sooner because you may meet the requirements for that department's transfer. Does that make sense? So I can drop some more info in the chat to assist you with that.
Great. The next question is, can a student retake a course if they get a bad grade? And y'all could expand on the Q drop phenomenon of that. And then can they take it at a local community college and transfer the credit, or what they should like, what do you evaluate they should do in that situation? Did I need to read the question? Or you got it?
Yeah, can you reread it real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was typing in there.
Can a student retake a course if they get a bad grade? Can you take the course at a local junior college and transfer the credit? There's multiple questions. And how can you know for sure if the class you take at the junior college will replace the credit at A&M? Okay.
Yeah, I can talk some of that. I'll caveat that with, I am not an academic advisor. So I know that degree plans are out there. I'm familiar with some of them, but anything that's degree plan related, class related, the person that you absolutely positively need to talk to is the student's academic advisor, because they're going to know those equivalents. And that's really is going to talk to the advisor and say, hey, I'm looking at taking this class at a junior college. Is it going to transfer in? You can go to the registrar's website and there's lists of transfer classes as well. So you can go kind of look at that online, do some research, but you definitely want to talk to the advisor. You can retake classes that you have done poorly in. Just understand that when you retake the class, that grade the second time does not replace the previous grade. So if you make a D in chemistry this semester and you retake it next semester and you make an A, that D in chemistry is going to stay on your transcript. It's going to stay in your GPA calculations if you take it here. So sometimes that's a point of confusion. They think, oh, I can take it and it replaces it. No, it does not replace that grade. And there are some degree plans and classes that if a student doesn't make a C or better, they do have to retake in order to complete that requirement for their degree plan. You can take classes at other colleges or universities that transfer in. depending upon the college department degree plan, there are some classes that they specify must be taken at A&M. There's others that that you can take elsewhere. But really the go-to person to get specific answers is the academic advisor in the department.
Great. The next question is, how can parents check the midterm grades for their students?
I know that officially you guys have an answer to this. I can tell you I don't. We've got two others that I'm constantly checking their grades. So, ours has been fairly honest with us. I know that's not the question, but it's been one of those things where we've just had the conversation. I as a parent want him to own it a little bit without me hovering. So, and we're hovers. So I know there's a lot of you that feel me out there, but I think for him, it's been nice to kind of follow it. I do know that you can go through Howdy and request a parent access to see those. And we've done that for the billing purpose and other things. But I think for midterms, we've tried to stay out of it. But I know that a lot of parents do like to know and like to support their students. And I encourage you to do that. But I think you'll have the official answer. Hopefully Meredith has the official answer. I saw her on mute.
Yeah. So the official answer of how do you view your students' midterm grades, I completely agree that working with your student and asking them how they're doing is always a good step too. But if you want to view their grades, your students do have to allow parent access to their academic records, and they'll do that through the Howdy portal. They're going to log in with their NetID and password, click on the My Record tab, and then they'll locate the parent guardian access channel. I'm going to drop a link in the chat that gives you the step-by-step instructions that you can send to your student and request them to give you the access. Then you'll get an email that you go through your own steps to set up your own NetID and password. Never use your student's NetID and password. It can trigger their student account to actually be locked so that they can't log on to the Howdy portal or Canvas or anything like that. So definitely don't go that route. Get your own NetID and password with your student's permission.
Yeah, he did give us access to the billing. He didn't give us access to the midterms. So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there's two different options that students can toggle between, select both and or.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The next question is, this family member's student is struggling in her first year of chemistry. Unfortunately, COVID took away her chemistry during high school and her background is lacking. Are any suggestions to how she can help fill the gap she's missing in the knowledge and like testing and application of it that she's seeing now in college?
Yeah, so I can, assuming it's one of the introductory chemistry classes, one of the things that we offer at the Academic Success Center, in addition to tutoring, is something that's called supplemental instruction. And we'd love to be able to do both this and tutoring for every class, but unfortunately, we're limited. So we try to focus on those introductory level classes, the core classes that we know students struggle with that have the high failure rates. So supplemental instruction, we hire students who have taken the class before and done well with it. They actually sit in lecture with your students. They work with the instructors, and then they'll do 2 to 3 review sessions during the week. And they don't reteach the lecture in these review sessions. They look at what are some of the key concepts, maybe look at doing some activities that reinforce key things. Or maybe they let's approach it from a different way. So maybe hearing it in a different perspective or a different approach can help. So there's over 25 years worth of research on supplemental instruction across the nation that we know that students who regularly use supplemental instruction, which is defined as 10 or more times a semester, score a half to a full letter grade better on average than their peers who don't. So I always recommend, if there is supplemental instruction available for your student's class, it's for them to take advantage of it. It's another opportunity to work with the material, And because they're students who are leading it, sometimes they present things in a different, they talk student, they don't talk PhD, been doing it for 20, 30 years and forgot how difficult sometimes the concepts are to grasp. So sometimes it's just hearing how another student worked and worked with it can be helpful. So our supplemental instruction schedules and what classes they're available for are on our website, the asc.tmu.edu. They get updated every semester because we depend on what students we can get and kind of what classes or what demand is out there. So supplemental instruction is one big one. It's a group, it's a classroom setting. There is also tutoring. We do tutoring. We switch to a by appointment basis this semester. So depending upon the subject, sometimes the waits can be longer because once again, we're just limited in the number of tutors that we can have and their schedules. But you can check those tutoring, what classes are available for and how to make an appointment on our website as well, the asc.tmu.edu. Both supplemental instruction and tutoring that we provide is at no additional charge. You've already paid for it when you're trying to figure out where all those student service fees and everything goes to. So nothing else out of pocket. Always recommend, try to take advantage of the free stuff where you can. There are pay tutors off campus. Can't endorse any of them. They all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses, and sometimes they have options for classes that we just can't support. And the last one I'd say is the first place to go when you got questions is go to the instructor, go to the professor, go to the TA, take advantage of their office hours. Because I always say, who knows better what they're trying to teach you and how they're going to be testing you than the instructor. Sometimes the students were intimidated by them, but for the most part, they're definitely different in their office hours than they are in the lecture hall. So several different options that are out there for you.
Great. Next question is, a student is not really, or his major is not really working out for him, and he's considering switching majors. What would that process be? How would that process begin of switching majors? And also maybe he doesn't know exactly what he wants to do, and advice for finding what they want to do and what major they want to be.
I can start on that. I bet everyone can chime in a little bit here. Well, for one thing, I want to say it's very normal for a student to change their major. Our data indicates that over 40% of our Aggies change their major at some point during their academic undergraduate career here at Texas A&M. Now, some of those may not be significant major changes. It might be going from math to applied math. And many of them might be sticking with the same career trajectory, but decide that a different major is going to help them get there in a better, more efficient way or something. But many of our students do make dramatic major changes, realizing that it's not a good fit. Their interests take them in a different direction. So know first that it's very normal. We always encourage students to visit the Career Center. A lot of our first year students don't feel like they can visit the Career Center, that it's for upperclassmen students, but they actually have staff that are dedicated to working with first years, as well as students who are exploring in specific areas and majors that love working with first year students because our first years have a lot of options still available to them. So that's really the ideal time to visit with the Career Center. They can give them resources, options, assessments, things like that to help them kind of hone it in on what their specific interests, strengths, talents are, and help them make a good career decision, and then the major that goes along with that. For a student who knows 100%, I want to change my major, their first visit, you can actually go to that link that I shared in the chat to find out what the requirements are to change into that major. Like I mentioned before, there are different requirements, policies for each department. And so they'll want to be aware of what those are and make sure they've met those requirements before they apply. If they are not able to fulfill the requirements if they're not able to take the courses that they need, things like that in their current major, their best option is to change into transition academic programs. It's kind of our exploratory holding place for students who are in the process of a major change. And I can drop some information about their area as well into the chat. They also have exploratory advisors who can help help students create a plan to determine their major and a plan for getting into their major of choice. Did I answer all of that question, Chapman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got one more to add that a lot of times people don't think about, but that's really good. And kind of, you know, my experience, I started out as a biochemistry major at A&M. I graduated with a degree in recreation and parks. So I understand the changing majors. And then I went and played Army for 28 years and retired and couldn't figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I understand completely the not being sure about what you want to do. But another great resource that we don't think of with careers sometimes is the Counseling and Psychological Services. So their website is caps.tamu.edu. And they've got some career exploration things on their webpage. One of the really good ones is they got some links to some different sites, but they also have some assessments. One of them is called the Focus 2 assessment that students can do that kind of helps to get them into, they're not really sure what they want to do, to start narrowing things down. So I can start thinking about what kind of career do I want to be into, what kind of field, and then they can take advantage of the Career Center. Okay, I think I want to be in this field. So what kind of jobs are out there? And then what major can I get into? Because sometimes we'll get fixated on a major that if I want to do this specific job, I've got to be in this specific major. And if it's a highly technical one, if you want to be a nuclear engineer, yeah, you probably got to do nuclear engineering. But for many of the career paths out there, there are multiple ways that a student can get into that career path. There are multiple majors that they can use to get there. So kind of figuring out where they want to go and then working from where you want to go career-wise into what major can help me get there can be more useful than what major can I get into and then what do I want to do with it.
Great. The next question is, y'all mentioned about like finding peers or study groups. How will a student find a study group and how do they join?
I mentioned this earlier. I mean, mine kind of just looked around at who was around him and made some of those connections. I think, you know, he had met a few through some organizations he was already in. So he's in Mays. There's a lot of organizations within the departments. I know we always hear about the big ones, you know, like Flow and all the other things that a lot of us parents talk about. But he joined a business fraternity. And so a lot of those students were taking some of the same classes. And so it kind of organically grew from that, knowing who was going to be in those classes. And then that kind of spread out from there. I think, you know, it is a little bit, I think for him, a little bit harder in the kind of the traditional college courses, political science, math, some of the others. But I think he was able to, again, find those students that may be up front where he was. Again, that's just his preference. But I think it made a huge difference because he was able to then extend that on, especially as you do more major specific classes, you tend to follow each other. And then you've kind of got your study group already made up. And you sometimes, I think even this semester, they planned a couple of their classes to register together, knowing that they had a pretty cohesive group.
Yeah, and I think there's, go ahead, Meredith.
Okay, I was going to say that's great advice for forming some of those organic sorts of connections. We encourage all students to download the TAMU Navigate app. I'll drop the link in the chat as well. But within Navigate, in addition to being able to use Navigate to schedule appointments with the Academic Success Center, their academic advisor, that alone is worth having the Navigate app. But another one of the features within the app is what we call study buddies. So the student schedule is loaded into the Navigate app. So when they click on that study buddies, it'll show them everyone else in whichever class they're interested in forming a study group with, who is also opted into the study buddies. So it's, and then you can, you know, get their contact info and be able to message them within the app to see about setting up a study group. So that's a really good option for students who might be a little more shy, not as comfortable making some of those connections within class. You know, striking up a conversation with a stranger can always be a little intimidating. So that's another way to go about it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, Meredith.
It's like I'll do the same work almost. Next question is, where can I find if your student's class has an SI group or supplemental instruction group?
Yeah, so it should get announced in class, usually the first couple of days. The professor will usually introduce the SI leader. But the easiest way is to go to our website, asc.tmu.edu. And there's a button at the top that says supplemental instruction, and you click on that and it'll show the schedules, show what's available for which particular instructors and what the schedules are for that. Gets updated every semester. So that's the easiest way to find something for a specific class. Kind of looking for other resources that are out there. We have another website that's called Study Hub. That's studyhub.tamu.edu, where we really just tried to aggregate all the different support resources that we know are out there on campus, because there's lots of them. But if you don't know where they are, you don't know how to access them, it doesn't do you much good. And so if your student goes there, they can click on the subject area, and it's new, really just only a few weeks old. But when they click on the subject area and scroll down a little bit, there'll be a box that says log in to view your support based on your course schedule. Because everything is listed there, like we got math, we got political science, but if they click on that button and then they use their net ID and password to log in, it'll pull up just the things that are available for their classes. So it'll pull up their math class, their political science, their chemistry, and have a list of these are all the resources that we know that are available on campus, and a hyperlink to take them to where they get the specific details for that. So that's a really good place if your student is looking for what's out there available for me. That's a great kind of first place to go.
Yes, and I put a link in the chat for Study Hub. The next question is, when do you recommend your student to wait until Q drop day if they're failing a class, and if they Q drop, will it affect their GPA?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So Q drop is dropping after the official add drop date. It's in the so for this fall, the Q drop deadline is Friday, November 18th at 5 p.m. Speaking for the academic advisors I know out there, please don't wait till the last day if you don't have to, because they will be swamped with questions. For Q drop, I always recommend 3 things before a student Q drops. First, talk to your instructor. See where you are. Kind of do your own assessment of, this is where I think I am with the grades that are posted and what's still available out there for graded material, to kind of see, mathematically, where am I? You might be eliminated from being able to pass the class at that point if it's really been going poorly for you. They can will give you recommendations. They'll know whether they're planning to curve or not, whether they tell the student that or not. They may say, no, you need to hang on. And sometimes it's like, well, if I make a 98 on the last 2 tests and every homework that's left, then I can still pass the class. But realistically, if you haven't made above a 70 on a test yet, what's realistically going to happen on that? So getting a good assessment, talking to the instructor. Then I recommend talking to your academic advisor. You can see, how is this going to affect degree plan? How can it affect other things? If you're going to drop below a full-time student, maybe talking to the financial aid as well, because it can affect scholarships and financial aid. And then being able to get all that information together, make an informed decision about, does it make sense to Q drop or not? We never want to Q drop if we don't have to. Although sometimes it's the right decision for an individual student for a specific class. If you Q drop the class, it will not affect your GPA, because it's not going to get included in those calculations. The hours won't get included. So if it's a 3-hour class, those 3 hours won't get included, and the Q doesn't count for anything. So your GPA is just going to be computed on the classes and hours that you completed. If a student is on academic probation, depending upon their department, that Q drop could have impacts on how they calculate their progress, their satisfactory academic progress. So once again, a question, discussion to be had with the academic advisor, if that's the case.
If a student knows that they're going to Q drop, I don't know that they need to wait until the last day, but I would encourage a student who Q drops a class to continue going to class even after they've dropped. Certainly in a large lecture, that shouldn't be a problem. If it's a smaller class, talk to the instructor. But that way, the next time they take that course or retaking that course, the information is more of a review for them, is going to be more familiar, and they'll hopefully be able to master the information a little bit easier, so that it's not all fresh the next time they go into it. Another note about Q drops is that students are only allowed 4 Q drops while they're at Texas A&M. So we definitely encourage students to use them sparingly. Another note is that in the state of Texas, state law says that they can only have 6 Q drops total. So if they go take classes at another institution during the summer and drop one of those courses, that's going to count towards their cumulative 6 Q drops allowed by the state. If they drop 3 classes at a community college during the summer, then they would actually only have 3 Q drops remaining at Texas A&M because of that state drop limit. So those are just some things to take into consideration. Definitely a Q drop isn't something to be used lightly, and great advice to always consult with the academic advisor before making that decision.
Yes. So some parents have gotten access through the parent access for grades, but they only see the final grade only. Is that correct? Will they be able to see midterm grades or day-to-day grades, etc.?
I'm going to be completely honest. I thought that they had access to midterm grades, but potentially they don't. It may also be an issue that midterm grades are not required to be entered, / all instructors, even if they are required to enter those grades, don't always do it. And once the window closes to enter midterm grades, instructors aren't allowed to go in and add them. So it may be a case that they're just not, midterm grades don't show up for the parent access, or it may be that the instructor didn't enter those grades. But great opportunity, if you're not seeing them, to talk to your student about their academic progress to date. Ask them if they have checked their midterm grades. Ask some of those good open-ended questions like, how do you feel about your academic performance so far in the semester? Do you feel like you need to make any changes moving forward to get the academic results that you were hoping for this semester? So really, if you're not seeing them, that's okay. Use this as an opportunity to engage in some conversation with your student about how they're doing and anything that they might want to do differently.
And as a parent, I would add that's a critically important part of that. I mentioned earlier, I don't check the grades because I think it's kind of his responsibility. But we do a lot of those conversations, especially after the first round of tests. It was, how'd you feel or how'd you do? And he was like, that was the worst test I've ever taken in my or I studied so much and he did really great or whatever. And so that conversation has been a lot more useful just for our family to go in, and then rather than going in and saying, oh my God, he's got a 55 in a class, and he was then he responds to us, yeah, because I've only done one thing and I bombed it, but I figured out what I did and I'm fine. Because I think it allows them to feel that they can guide you also in the conversation as a parent. It's worked really well for us.
Yeah, that's one of the things I talk to students about too, is, I don't get overly excited one way or another on midterm grades. Would rather see A's and B's than D's and F's, but often it's one test. And they may not be including labs or homeworks or other things. So what we want to do with midterm grades is make sure that they make sense. So like I say, if your student thinks that they've got a 93 average in the class, but they've got a D for their midterm grade, they want to go talk to that instructor and kind of see where that disconnect is. But if it is, yeah, I know I made a 68 on the first test and I got a D on the midterm, yeah, that makes sense. And I know I've been doing okay on the homework, on the quizzes, those other things. So it's hard. I know as a parent, it's hard to see those bad grades and not want to freak out. But just kind of understanding where they come from and making sure they make sense. And I've seen lots of students have D's on midterms and make A's for a final grade on the course. So like I said, it's an indicator, but it's not a determining factor in where they end up.
I think I'm learning from other questions I'm receiving that sometimes you see the midterm grades, sometimes you don't. I think it depends on the course, and that's what it is.
Yeah, so some of it is certain courses require midterm grades. Depending on if your student transferred in a lot of hours with AP credits or other things, they may reach a hours threshold that doesn't require midterm grades. So generally speaking, true freshmen are going to see more midterm grades than they're not. For the courses they're going to be taking, you're going to see more midterm grades than you're not. But there's not a hard and fast rule on. And then, like I said, some instructors are better about submitting their grades on time than others, especially for midterms.
Mike, can you give me the link for the study buddy? Or Meredith talked about study buddies. Is it in
Yes,
the app?
it was, I did drop it in the chat to you all. It was the Navigate.
Yes.
It's the studentsuccess.taman.edu/navigate that links to the study buddies.
And that's the same app that your students will use to make an appointment with their academic advisor, or to make an appointment with me or one of the other academic coaches, or to make an appointment with our tutoring that we offer that's by appointment. So it's used for a lot of different things here at A&M.
We talked about that. Let's see. So when final exam season is coming up, let me find the question. Oh, when is the semester over and what does the final exam schedule look like? And when should my students start preparing for final exams?
Sure. So the last day of class is Wednesday, December 7th. Make sure your students paying attention that week, because the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of that week is what we call redefined days. So, we had Monday and Tuesday off for fall break. Students will get Thursday, Friday off for Thanksgiving. So to be able to make up for some of those wonky kinds of schedules, we have what are called redefined days, where on Monday, I think you might be attending your Wednesday class or whatever the case may be. So that should be on their syllabi with what they're expected to do those days, but they'll want to pay a lot of attention since their schedules might be a little bit different than they typically are, particularly if they have work schedules and things like that their classes are built around. Know that those are a little different. And then Wednesday, December 8th is what we term a reading day. So it's a day that there's no classes, there's not to be any exams, assignments due, just a day for students to study and prepare for the exams. And then finals will actually start on Friday, December 9th. Your student may or may not have an exam on that first day. They may have all of their exams a little bit later in the week. I'm going to drop a link into the chat that has the final exam schedule. Again, your students should have the dates for their final exams in the syllabus that was provided by the instructor at the beginning of the semester, but it's always good to check the final exam schedule, because the times that they are likely taking their final exam is probably not the time that they went to class. So they'll want to make a different schedule for that week. And in terms of preparing for finals, I teach a Hullabaloo class, so I'm working with a group of first-year students, and in our lesson plan for preparing for final exams, we start about 3 weeks out, and we help them create a plan that starts at least 10 days before their first final starts, so that they can create a plan for all of their courses. So I would encourage them to start no later than 10 days before. That would be kind of the absolute latest. I would encourage a student to start preparing for finals, but really good preparation starts now. If a student is staying up with the material, going to SI sessions, going to review sessions, keeping up with the material, then these cumulative final exams will be a lot less intimidating than if they're feeling like they need to cram it all in at the end of the semester. I'm sure Mike has strategies to add to that.
Yeah. So like I said, The short answer is now, kind of like Meredith said. But we know that things are going to ramp up as they get closer to finals. So we have a couple of things on our website. Once again, the asc.tmu.edu under the learning and study handouts. There's lots of different things, time management, some test prep stuff. We've got a series of 3 to 5 minute videos. We've got a couple of things on there. One's called a countdown to finals handout that we kind of talk through that 3 to 4 week process that Meredith talked about. I'm sure we talked very similar things. And we've actually got a calendar on there for just those last 5 or 6 weeks of the semester that students can use to kind of start planning out. Really, like I am working with individual coaching students. I'll start talking about finals the first week in November, because a lot of times we kind of wait until after Thanksgiving to think about it. And while there's still a lot we can do after Thanksgiving, if you've got a good plan, and that's really what we talk about, is kind of come up with what's my plan for how I want to study, how I want to do this. So when I get into those last 2 weeks, I'm not trying to figure it out then. I know I've got enough time to work on it. And I can just kind of follow through with my plan and still maintain that good sleep schedule, which is critical. Still have some time for breaks. So I highly recommend having them check out that countdown to finals handout and using the calendar to plan it out. And then, like I say, if they want to talk about kind of how do they do that, what does that look like, they can make an appointment with me or one of the other coaches to come in to kind of talk, how do I prepare for finals?
Yes. I would also add in that Thanksgiving, we just had fall break, which is new for Texas A&M this year. So it's not the first time they're coming home for Thanksgiving. But Thanksgiving is a time that they might be coming home a little bit stressed because they're realizing the semester is almost over and they have some final projects they need to be doing and stuff like that. So we encourage parents and family members to be aware of that in their understanding that it's just the end of the semester and things are ramping up. But that is all the time we have for today. I'm going to go to the next slide. Our next web chat is Wednesday, November 16th. We're going to be discussing career services. They're going to do a presentation in that web chat. So we encourage you to come to that as well. And then if you want to stay connected with our family and program sites, these are our links. You can join our Facebook page. And that is our web address. And then we have a text ag link that links out to many more different options and availability. You can also always email us at familyprograms@tamu.edu. If we didn't answer your question during this 1 hour session, we answer any question that comes through our email inbox and put you in the right direction or contacts to get the correct answer. But we thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope you have a great day. Thanks to all the panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. And we hope you have a great day. Thanks and gig 'em.